Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Burek. I use she, her pronouns. I am a member of Merging Waters Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a community that draws on the shared values of mindful interdependence, authentic curiosity, and courageous love. We welcome you who are joining us in person and those who are joining us online. It is so good to be together in all of the ways that we can. If you are with us in person where we share space at the United Church of Christ, New Brighton, we are so glad that you are here. We ask that everyone wears a name tag in an effort to practice radical hospitality and to build community. Some are available in the welcome area out in the entry. I have a few announcements. We encourage everyone to take care of your body's needs during the service and engage in ways that help you feel connected, including crafting, doodling, fidgeting, stretching, etc. The fireside space in the back has lots of room for moving around during the service. We want children especially to feel free to engage in activities in the back or to be with their adults or to move between the two. If you have a pastoral care need, please feel free to reach out to Reverend Krista. Reverend Krista's office hours this week are Thursday, October 23rd, 2 to 4 on Zoom, Friday, October 24th, 11 to 1 here at UCC and UUC, no, it should be UCCNB, or by appointment. The Sunday evening book group meets tonight at Sig and Marty's. This is Chandler Place. The group is reading The Hidden Life of Trees, which is appropriate for the theme of today's talk, by Peter Wohlleben. Next Sunday, October 28th from 11:30 to 12:30, there will be a trunk or treat in the parking lot here. Feel free to decorate your trunk, wear costumes, bring small wrapped candies to share, and to join in the fun. See Liz Haworth for more information. Our October special donation will benefit Hope for Youth in their efforts to end youth homelessness in the northern Twin Cities, including crucial support for LGBTQIA youth. Newcomers are welcome to all of our programming. You need not be a formal member. And if you are new to Merging Waters, please consider signing up to receive our weekly e-news, which gives details and links for our events. To sign up, you can include your email address on the sign-in sheet at the welcome table and check the box that gives us permission to add you to the mailing list. And if you're online, there is a connection card available on our webpage. Please see the Thursday e-news for more information about any of these events and about future events. Joining me in the worship service in person today are David Weiss as a service leader, Marie Phillips sharing her reflections, Bruce, our director of music ministry, is at the piano here on site, and members of the choir and band will lead hymns. Our volunteer tech team includes Katie and Byron Johnson and Brian Hill. Katie Johnson and Janice Sancott create the service slides. Welcome once again to our service today. We hope that these Sunday services provide a time of sanctuary, reflection, connection, and joy. We will light our chalice in person and encourage those of you online to light one at home. Our chalice lighting words are by the Reverend Paul Sprecher for the Web of Life. We light this chalice for the web of life which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we have our being, for the earth, the sky above and below, and for our Mother Earth, and for the mystery. Our opening words are Changed from the Earth by Irene Gloss and Rebecca Savage. There is a song beneath the soil. 10 million voices raise their call in no human language. Life flows through the tangle of roots, mycelium, microbiota, and crawling, burrowing, funneling life. The song flows upward through trunks and stems and blades of tender grasses and races out into the air. It is picked up and carried on in no human tongues. It is in the footfall of paw and hoof. It hums in the buzz of wings and the fluttering of feathers. It shines on scales and fins and slithering skins. And if we are quiet and pay attention, sometimes we remember that we are part of this song as well as we have notes to sing. The Anthropocene is an experiment. What happens when we humans forget that the life around us is part of us, that these lives have no less inherent worth and dignity? How many more singers of the earth song will go silent forever? Today, we are charged to remember, to know that as we live together in community, we are also in community with the silently singing lives in the vast congregation of the earth as well. The interdependent web of existence is no allegory. It is as real as the heart beating within our chest. We are charged to do what we can to help those who cannot advocate with human language, who cannot scream for help when they are suffering. We have a role to play in softening the blow of the age of humans. We have a voice that can help to shape the world to come. We are so charged in the name of the sacred song, the tapestry of life of which we are a part. Let us remember and then act. Now please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, As the Turn of the World Draws Near, lyrics by David Weiss. Words will be projected on the screen for those in person and those online. We will repeat the chorus after the last verse. Song leaders will come to the microphone. People at home will be muted and are welcome to sing along. Our next reading is adapted from Chris Jerry's commentary on Hospicing Modernity by Vanessa Machado de Oliveira. Modernity, Oliveira claims, is not about being contemporary or cutting edge, nor is it about technology or science. It is the state humans adopt when they believe they are separate from nature and not reliant on each other. It is when we view the planet as a storehouse of resources rather than as an organism. It is about viewing non-human animals as livestock rather than relatives. It is thinking that polluting a river is okay because the human concept of profit is more important than the life of a waterway. It is about regarding a forest as timber rather than a complex web of life. It is the slave triangle. It is using Agent Orange in Vietnam. And it is the lies of the oil companies to defer action on climate change. It is the story of separation, of how humans have cut themselves off from the rest of life on the planet Earth by believing that we can do precisely as we wish without repercussions. Tragically, we are wrong. A destabilized climate, pollution, inequality, and endless war are all testimony to the failings of modernity. More chilling still is that modernity is not a philosophical abstract that we can dip into or opt out of. Generations of modernity as the driving force of the Western world means that it is everywhere. It is the story we hear. Whilst growing up and finding our place in the world, it shapes our education and what we do with the things we learn. It reaches deep inside us, filtering our view of the world, deciding what is possible and what is not, severing links with the ancient wisdom and the diversity of human experience. It is a restrictive template for how we experience our lives here. Our multi-generational moment is by the Reverend Karen Johnston. Most of the time, wild animals can take care of themselves in all seasons, including winter. But occasionally, maybe even rarely, there are times when winter weather conditions become dangerous even to wild animals. This is a true story. It's a story that could have happened anywhere, and probably has, but with different people and different birds involved. But the story I am telling you took place in December of 2024 in Iceland, a small country far in the north, farther north than anywhere in the United States except Alaska, and on the other side of Greenland. The capital city, and the largest, is Reykjavik. You can see skip down. In early December, on a social media page in Reykjavik, there was a report that there was a young swan stuck, frozen to the ice, and it seemed to be dying. As happens when someone posts a news story like that, different people, lots of people, commented, some with worry, some with questions, some with opinions. Is it possible to help? What can we do? What did the swan do to get itself stuck? Lots of worry, lots of wondering. Then someone named Kirsten Langenberger, who is described as a naturalist, now I don't know if that's their job or their hobby, and I guess it doesn't really matter, responded to the social media post, and Kirsten wrote, "I am on my way with the necessary equipment." What do you think the necessary equipment was to save a fully grown swan who is frozen to the ice? Yes, a thermos of hot water. Why? To melt the ice to which the swan was stuck. Yes, a surfboard. A surfboard. Well, in case the ice failed, the rescuers didn't want to fall into that cold, cold water. Kirsten brought one more thing. Can you guess what it might be? Kirsten brought a friend. Kirsten and her friend, with the help of the thermos, the backup surfboard, and probably a bunch of people cheering them on, were able to thaw, then freeze the swan which not too long after flew away. Now, when we have a hard thing to do, it's a good thing to have the right supplies, the necessary equipment. And then when the right time comes, we use it. And sometimes the most important time is right now. And the most important thing to do is help. And the most important person or being is the one who helps right here, right now. The necessary equipment might not always be a thermos with hot water, although I can think of many situations where such a thing comes in handy, particularly if the hot water has been filtered through ground coffee, then it's excellent. But the necessary equipment might also not be a surfboard, although there might be times when we need a surfboard, or probably fewer. But I'm going to say that in most situations, a friend or companion or helpful stranger is definitely something I consider necessary equipment. It is important that we not go it alone. Doing things together turns out to be a kind of necessary equipment for life. Terry Belcher will now play By Breath, written by Sarah Thompson of the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Duluth. Our song leaders will join as backup singers. We invite all of you to join in the chorus. And the last time through, Terry will play the guitar along with the chorus. We'll sing the chorus without guitar, and then Terry will close out the song.
By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. The air that is my breath is the air that you are breathing, and the air that is your breath is the air that I am breathing. The wind rising in my breast is the wind from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south, breathing in, breathing out. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. The water that is my blood, my sweat, tears from crying, is the water that is your blood. Your sweat, tears from crying, and the rising of the tide is in our veins, and in the ocean wide we are rising stream, rushing river, running stream. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we earth is clay, flowers blossoming and fading. We are dust and we are clay, we are blossoming and fading. Every color, every sound, every place is holy ground. Every living thing, hear it laugh, can you hear it sing? By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. The fire in my heart, my soul flame burning, is a fire in your heart, your soul flame burning. We are spirit burning bright by the light of day. In the dark of night we are shining like the sun, like the moon, like the Holy One. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath, by blood, by body, by spirit, we are all one. By breath.
We arrive today, as we do every week, with both joys and sorrows in our hearts, and part of the promise we make to each other is that we will help celebrate the joys and bear the sorrows. I speak for many of us when I say that we live in challenging and frightening times. Many of us never imagined that our own government would fall into authoritarianism so quickly. However, there are hopeful signs. Over 7 million of our fellow Americans turned out to say no kings yesterday. In Anoka, including 13 plus members of this congregation. In Anoka, crowds along both sides of Main Street stretched for blocks. Countless drivers honked, waved, and gave us a thumbs up as they passed. Whether you showed up in person or supported us from afar, you supported our UU religious values of justice, equality, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity.
Today's twin themes are cultivating compassion and care for the earth. But that leaves a stark truth unsaid. Our real task is to care for the earth in a time of collapse. Anything short of this is a task for another time. I could spend the next 20 minutes supporting this claim, but I have more to say than that. So I just reference one recent headline. For 50 years now, we've known beyond doubt that rising CO2 levels could eventually imperil us. We've determined that 350 parts per million of CO2 in Earth's atmosphere is the safe upper limit for a climate hospitable to human civilization. Above that, a host of reactions begin that threaten the stability of ocean currents, growing seasons, ice caps, and much more. In 1987, the year my son was born, CO2 hit 350 parts per million. In the years since, it has soared past that safe upper limit, rising year after year without interruption. And just last week, The Guardian reported that last year, CO2 reached another record level, now 424 parts per million. Worse, last year's increase was the largest single-year increase in CO2 since 1957, when modern record-keeping began. We are far past 350, and we're accelerating. The truth is, we aren't asking today how to care for the earth in a vacuum, as though by learning some green practices we can keep this planet pristine. Earth, as we know it, is dying. We may tend to some of her wounds, but the juggernaut of extractive, industrial, consumptive capitalism is such that even the wounds we tend will be torn open again before long. So I am saying the hard part out loud and up front. Our care for the earth is going to look a lot more like hospice than healing. I don't say that lightly. I say it because we need to know. UUs have been at the forefront of many social justice causes because our principles and values have helped us to discern truth and act with resolute conviction, even when it has been challenging and uncomfortable. This is one such time. I beg of us that we hold tightly to our values and lean into the tumult to be of service as best we can. And to do that, we must come home. Now, home was a topic of major conversation a few days ago when I discussed my thoughts for today with my Second Tuesday conversation group. I got more pushback for this choice of image than anything else. So let me explain why I'm holding on to it, including how I mean it and how I don't. It's true, for some people, home is not a happy memory, maybe not even a happy present. I lived for 3 years in a violent marriage that left me regularly bruised on the outside and broken on the inside. I know home can hold ambiguous meanings or worse. It's true there are people who live far closer to the land than most of us do. But even farmers, naturalists, ecologists, even off-gridders, while they may understand the land, its creatures, and its systems better than most of us do, they were still formed by a civilization built on a lie. Most of them are not home in the sense I mean. Unless you're talking about the Bushmen of the Kalahari or some other indigenous people largely untouched by the West, there are very few people at home in the way I mean it. It's true, home can wrongly suggest I'm inviting us back to a more pristine earlier time some generations ago. No. Home, as I mean it, is nowhere behind us. It is only up ahead, and only if we choose to go there. In this sense, even the few tribes that still know many of the old ways are no longer home, because their wisdom, which is real, will be shaken by a world made unknown to them, because it is dying on account of forces beyond anything they can fathom. In fact, that future will be marked decisively for all of us by displacement, by homelessness to one degree or another. So why then speak of coming home? Because I believe home still means something profoundly good, even if for some that meaning is intuited in painful contradiction to their own experience. By home, I mean being in a dynamic relationship with our surroundings that is honest, trustworthy, and life-giving. In that sense, I am asking us to come home to earth. If we wish to care for the web of life in all its diversity, to be of service to the plants and animals, to the waters, skies, and land, we must come home. And right now, we are far away. Vanessa Oliveira was born into the overlap and conflict between an indigenous heritage and the West. Today, she works at the crossroads of indigenous wisdom and the Western worldview. In Hospicing Modernity, she argues that modernity is governed by a story of separation that tells us we are separate from nature, that animals can become livestock because they're not our siblings, and that the soil and water and air can be the endless recipients of our pollution and waste because they're not living webs of relationship, at least not with us. The first whispers of separation began much earlier with patriarchy, agriculture, domesticated animals, and anthropocentric cosmologies. What we've called civilization, urban settlements with science and leisure and the arts, but also class structure, extractive and exploitive economies, and accumulative wealth. They fed on the story of separation for millennia before modernity emerged. But in the culmination of the scientific and industrial revolutions, powered by seemingly unlimited access to fossil fuels and amplified by the globalization of economics and information, modernity became a threat to life on Earth. This notion that we were somehow separate from the natural world was foolhardy from the first. But modernity embedded it in every facet of our lives. It's the DNA of the systems we've built, capitalism foremost. But our economic and banking systems, our transportation and manufacturing systems, our education and social systems, even our cultural and belief systems, have all been shaped by a story that sets apartness rather than relationship at the heart of reality. Vanessa says that we were taught generation after generation to be separate until today, when our neurophysiology so limits our ability to sense and perceive nature that our separateness seems real. Human beings once knew Earth was alive, that we were singers within a chorus that began in the soil beneath our feet and echoed in the trees and animals alongside us. Our distant ancestors knew Earth as home. We might have even entertained that distant memory in our childhood imaginations before the story of separation had its way with us. It is demonstrably and devastatingly true that the stories telling us we were more than earthlings, somehow apart from Earth itself and all its limits, those stories led us to new heights which we called civilizations, each one grander than the one before it. Progress was a rush to our egos and seemed such proof of our genius. Never mind that we achieved all this by utter lack of civility toward our fellows, humans and otherwise. But now the repercussions of our progress are here. Rising CO2, warming temperatures, vanishing insects, weakening ocean currents, increasingly fraught weather, and collapsing carbon sinks, to name just a few. The fractures are everywhere. How do we care for this fractured world? We must go home. And yet, here we are, far from home, lost in a world now increasingly and inexorably unworlding itself all around us. We have wandered so far and so long in this story of separation. How will we ever find our way home from here? I suggest the compass that can lead us home can be found in an unexpected place. A stuffed bear named Winnie the Pooh. Now hear me out, because we need wisdom anchored in images that will stay with us. There is a tale in which Pooh and his friends are out adventuring and get lost. Tigger is unfazed, but also frenetically unhelpful. Rabbit denies they're lost and stalwartly leads them in circles until panic sets in and he goes off on his own. As Pooh and Piglet take a rest in the small clearing they've now come to for the umpteenth time, Piglet names out loud his fear that they're lost and wonders how they will ever find their way home. Suddenly, Piglet is startled by a noise, but Pooh explains, "That's just my tummy rumbling. Now then, let's go home." Piglet is confused and asks Pooh if he really knows the way. Pooh responds, "No, Piglet, but I've got 12 pots of honey in my cupboard and they've been calling to my tummy. I couldn't hear them before because Tigger and Rabbit were talking so much. I think I know where they're calling from now. So come on, we'll just follow my tummy." And sure enough, Pooh's rumbling tummy guides them home. It's interesting. There's a Greek word used frequently in the New Testament Gospels, splagnidzomai. It actually means tummies rumbling. Okay, literally, it means to be moved deep in your bowels, pretty much the same thing. When the Gospels describe Jesus as having a rumbling tummy, it's translated as compassion. Beyond pity, sympathy, or even empathy, splagnidzomai names that restlessness so deep in your gut that it drives you to act. I offer Pooh's rumbling tummy to remind us to trust compassion to lead us home. But we will encounter challenges as we use compassion as our compass to go home. Even for Pooh, the challenge was to hear the rumbling itself. Both the frenzy of Tigger and the adamant denials of Rabbit made it impossible for Pooh to hear his own tummy until he sat in silence. Vanessa would say, the story of separation contains multiple Tiggers and Rabbits, determined to keep us from hearing the rumbling in our own tummies. Just ask yourself, which of your personal habits, your thinking, eating, entertainment, news, purchasing, and which of the institutional forces around you, where you live, work, and shop, your credit cards, debts, government, which of these reinforce the story of separation and keep you from being moved so deeply in your gut by the suffering of the natural world that you cannot fail to act? I'm betting this isn't a short list for any of us. So the first challenge is to become aware of how loud the lie of separation is in our lives, and then to call its bluff. Joanna Macy, a contemporary saint of ecological renewal, was a Buddhist practitioner and a scholar of systems thinking. She just died in July at 96. Her life's work was to overcome the story of separation. In fact, the trainings she developed are known as the work that reconnects. Joanna was convinced that our connectedness to the web of life ran so deep, far deeper than any of the noise generated by the lie of separation, that if we just simply pause and listen, we will hear the music of that song inviting us to learn its tune once again. The second challenge is harder, because while that song, the music of all the beings in the interdependent web, is just waiting for us to listen, and while that music can indeed evoke reverence and wonder, in a dying world, as we choose to listen beyond the separation that has framed our lives, we will hear cascades of grief upon grief upon grief. The creatures, the plants, the forests, the soil are all suffering on account of the damage done to this living earth by a story that set one being, humans, outside the web. And while we may be happy to savor the reverence and wonder that nature can still evoke, the rumbling in our tummies, the compassion that is our compass, that will be felt as grief. Compassion means literally to suffer with, and our journey home will lead us into the felt suffering of the world that we had learned we were separate from. And there we will discover that we were never apart from all other living things. That intimate connection remains like the still embers of a fire deep in our bones. But that discovery has two distinct steps. As we open ourselves to the pain of the world, we will feel that suffering, not our suffering, the world's. And while that grief may seem overwhelming, it is ultimately our passport home. Because as we allow that grief to move through us, we experience a rebirth of kinship deep in our souls. We remember that we have always been kin to all that is on earth. And this will be the first hint that we are nearly home. I end with 3 strong intuitions about coming home and a few thoughts on the necessary equipment to care for a dying planet. These days are fraught, and not just for the wider Earth community. Many members in our human community are also in peril. Immigrants and trans persons, the poor, persons of color, and women all find their rights and well-being under attack as fascism asserts itself in this land. And across the globe, there is no pause in human suffering. And the lie of separation tells us humans matter most. But I say, far from distracting us from fascism here or suffering elsewhere, remembering our kinship with Earth will further deepen our care for our fellow humans. This is not either or. It is emphatically both and. Second, it is critical that we include our youth and young adults as we journey home. They are growing up smack on the fault line of the false promises of separation and consumption, while both our natural world and our social world are fracturing. They likely already feel the pain of the world. It is essential that we help them recognize that pain as a beacon home. Third, our inward commitment to compassion will take expression in diverse ways. I will suggest a few this morning, but ultimately, the journey itself will be generative of the actions we need. Like you, I am a refugee from the story of separation. Our shared understanding of home will deepen and emerge as we go. Now, about the necessary equipment. First is opening ourselves to compassion, both as the restless yearning in our gut and also as the ceaseless and often senseless suffering of our sibling creatures on the planet. Compassion is a muscle of sorts. As we use it, it will strengthen and be capable of more. Alongside compassion, a host of personal and communal rituals and practices may help us. Think of them as experiments in the truth of inseparability. Some will work better than others, but we'll only know which ones work best by trying them out. For starters, ask your 5 senses to help you know the world intimately. Let your compassion join your sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch. Pay attention to what evokes wonder and joy, and what evokes grief, perhaps even rage. In light of the truth of inseparability, consider the choices you make regarding pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides, or the food you eat, or the personal products you use. This isn't about chasing ethical purity. All life takes life in order to live. It is about becoming more intentional in our choices, because each choice either reinforces the lie of separation or reclaims the truth of inseparability. Remember, too, simplicity is green. And like compassion, simplicity is a muscle that can reach further the more we exercise it. Read an introductory book on permaculture. These can get detailed and dense, but an introductory book can expand your imagination about what it might mean for agricultural, household, or even urban policies and practices to experiment with the truth of inseparability. Create a meditative walking labyrinth, really any small trail that features plants and animals that have gone extinct because of human activity in modernity. Such a trail would ask us to really encounter, even briefly, the suffering wrought on our world by the story of separation, not to make us feel guilty, but to feel the world's pain deeply so we remember our kinship with it. Imagine walking that trail with Sarah Thompson's By Breath playing in the background. Make green burial part of your funeral plans. Honestly, when we die, nothing pays final tribute to the lie of separation quite like taking extra steps to keep our dead body from re-entering the cycle of life. And it is hard to overstate how shifting our death rituals away from separation and toward inseparability could harness the energy of these liminal moments for truth. The last necessary equipment, just as in today's story for all generations, is good company. Everything I've mentioned above is more doable if we do it together. Additionally, because there will be waves of grief that wash over us as we go, it is important that we cultivate communal wonder and joy to steady us. Things like our monthly coffee house will be needed all the more as we make our way home. Okay, that was a lot. It is no small task to consider cultivating compassion as we care for the earth in a time of collapse. I leave you with 2 concluding words of wisdom. Vanessa Oliveira says, it is helpful to remember that we are both insufficient and indispensable for the work that awaits us. The song of life is not a solo for any species. We can't sing it by ourselves, but there are notes that only our voices can hit. The song needs all of us. And lastly, I said earlier that this future will be marked decisively for all of us by displacement, by homelessness to one degree or another. So let's be clear. Home is not a place. It is a dynamic living relationship with the web of life, especially those strands of the web nearest to us. And as we move our hearts and our lives in the direction of compassion, the journey itself becomes our home. May it be so.
Thank you, David. And now Merging Waters congregation member Marie Phillips will share her thoughts.
Wow is my first thought. Thank you, David. And these are words by a book I read. I read about 4 books, not totally, but this one said a lot of what I wanted to say to you. It's called The World as We Knew It, Dispatches from a Changing Climate. The essays in this book were edited by Amy Brady and Taja Eisen, and copyright is 2022, 3 years ago. When we think of environmental crises, our minds might go first to extreme weather events like Superstorm Sandy, whose size and scale were amplified by climate change. On October 29, 2012, Sandy struck Atlantic City, New Jersey. That night, a full moon hung in the turbulent sky, pulling the ocean tides a full 20% than normal and increasing Sandy's storm surge. Seawater rose along the eastern seaboard toward New York City and then poured into Manhattan, flooding subways and sidewalks. More than 600,000 people lost power throughout the 5 boroughs, many for over 1 week. The years since Sandy have seen an escalating series of even larger events. But the connections between humans and the natural world go beyond extreme weather events. As the earth warms, other devastating I'm looking at this word, phenomena continue to affect the planet. Invasive species migrate to cooler climates, choking off local wildlife and creating potentially threatening moments of contact between animals and humans. Wildfire seasons are now year-round. Low-lying nations threatened by sea level rise, like the Marshall Islands, are being forced to consider relocating their entire population. Early in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic encircled the world. The catastrophic novel coronavirus was born out of humanity's complex and unsustainable relationship with wildlife. To use a metaphor that has grown uncanny, these visible effects of global warming are just the tip of the iceberg. And here's one personal tip of the iceberg that may sound familiar to you. Summer nights in Kansas used to be so alive with the sounds of insects and animals that if you wanted to tell a story, you had to shout to be heard. The trees vibrated with the droning of locusts, the weeds shook with crickets, frogs bellowed up and down the creeks. My family, by Amy Brady, one of the editors, would chase fireflies, In those days, the darkness out in rural Kansas was still complete, an inky pierced black only by the porch light and the blinking bugs and the headlights of the occasional car that zoomed down the distant freeway. In all that darkness, the fireflies were a cloud of light. So when they swerved, so did I. An open glass held tightly, an open jar held tightly with one hand, a metal lid with 3 tiny holes in the other. Once I tripped on a twig and went crashing down into the grass. Knees burning, I rolled over and stared up at the night sky. The fireflies and stars so thoroughly blended that I couldn't tell when a stream of light was a bug or a shooting star. It never occurred to me that nights like those wouldn't always be possible. These days, summers in Kansas have changed. Thermometer readings now regularly reach the upper 90s. Corn crops are suffering, and some people without air conditioning are routinely hospitalized with heat stroke. Now a New Yorker, I recently visited my family back in Kansas. The old house has been sold, but my father still lives in Topeka. The silence of the animals and insects on this trip was unsettling. Owing to the development of more grocery stores and restaurants, the darkness was gone as well. Here was a landscape so familiar I could draw a map from memory, and yet it felt strange to me. That peculiar feeling has become recognizable to many people around the world. We are now witnesses to one of the most transformative moments in human history, a time when climate change is altering life on Earth at an unprecedented rate, but also a time when the majority of us can still remember when things were more stable. We are among the first and perhaps one of the last human populations to have memories of what life was like before. To us, the new normal is not yet how it's always been. Our lives jostle against incongruous memories of familiar places. We are forced to confront strange and painful ways how much those places have changed.